Yeah, I bet.
Uh,
I'm excited for this though.
yeah, no, us too. Thanks for being here. Wait a few more minutes, but yeah, what's are you coming to APNA, Allison?
No, I'm not this year, but I would love to in the future. I'm not a APNA member yet.
Ah, got it. Yeah, I forget how recently you started. I feel like you made a lot of progress so quickly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, of course. And um, okay. Charmaine, is that you? Can you hear us? How are you doing?
Hi, yes, it's me. It's Charmaine. How are you, Akash?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. And Stephanie, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just in the background cooking.
Awesome.
What are you cooking?
I'm actually making a breakfast scramble.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm excited to eat.
I still have my breakfast smoothie going. Yeah, I don't know if maybe we'll wait a couple of minutes. See if we have anyone else showing up, but
Yeah, let's wait 2 more minutes, 5 minutes past the hour, and then we can start.
great. Stephanie, were you at Nanny Palooza or were you at Nanny Palooza?
Yes, I was. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? I know a lot of people were really excited about it. So
Yeah.
how'd it go?
It was great. I hadn't been since 2019, but it was wonderful. It was good to see everybody.
Yeah. That's awesome. Still haven't been there. Need to go at some point.
Excuse me.
I guess Daniel, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
I think we can start. Yeah, we can start.
Awesome. And so, of course, this will be recorded also, so we'll send that out to everybody. But yeah, thank you all for being here. And you know, some of you may not already know Colby, but he is the founder of Nanny Parent Connection, and yeah, we're really excited to be partnering with them to bring you all background checks. And really, I think Colby, you can take it from there and tell them your story.
Yeah, sure. No, thank you, Akash. Appreciate that. Well, hi everyone. My name is Colby Underwood, and I'm one of the founders, and I call myself the Chief Operations Officer for Nanny Parent Connection, and we're based out of Seattle, Washington, and we kind of have our tentacles spread all across the United States right now, in a variety of different for tools, I guess you could say, in the childcare world. And so what Nanny Parent Connection really is, or what we call it, is we're a childcare connection hub. Really, what we've built Nanny Parent Connection to be is kind of a one-stop shop for both parents, agencies, and nannies and sitters and au pairs, who are looking to really find each other. Parents trying to find nannies, agencies trying to find nannies, agencies trying to find parents. And really try to create a different model. So some people kind of look at us and say, oh, you guys are kind of like a care.com. We're a little bit like a care.com, but we do much more than just a company like care.com does. One of the, I think, really kind of fascinating or interesting points about Nanny Parent Connection is, just like all of you, we run our own nanny agency within Nanny Parent Connection. We've been running it now for about 3 years. It's become a very popular agency in the Seattle area, although we also service clients really all around. Oddly enough, we're servicing clients right now in the British Virgin Islands, and we're also working with a client in Scotland, of all places. So definitely understand the childcare agency business, and obviously a lot of the hurdles and obstacles that many of you are trying to navigate. After we launched Nanny Parent Connection, we were really not satisfied with the background check options that were available out there. And really the problem that we ran into, there was really, I would say, kind of 3 major problems that we identified with background check solutions for the childcare world. You know, number one, a lot of the background check companies were not FCRA compliant. And you'll hear me use the term FCRA here over the next couple of minutes several times. And just so you understand, FCRA means Fair Credit Reporting Act. And that's a federal law, federal mandate that controls not only, or I should say that governs not only background screening services like what we offer, but most people know of the FCRA because of credit reports. Anytime you pull a credit report on yourself or do anything with credit screening, those are also governed by FCRA, or the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So we ran into a lot of background check companies that were not FCRA compliant. And again, I'll come back and talk about FCRA compliance here in a few minutes. We also found that a lot of the solutions were really kind of piecemeal or a la carte. There wasn't a company that offered one package that had everything that we wanted or everything that we needed for what we were doing with Nanny Parent Connection. And then the biggest problem for us, and we discovered this after testing out about 4 or 5 different background check companies, there really wasn't any customer service. And that was a real struggle for us. And I'm sure it's probably a struggle for some of you as well, because we were brand new 4 years ago. We were brand new to the background check world. We really didn't know anything about background checks. We had to really educate ourselves. And when we started running background checks, we had a lot of questions about some of the hits that we saw, or basically some of the notes that were included in the background check report, and found that the customer service was really lacking from the service providers that we were working with. So we sat down, our team, our Nanny Parent Connection team sat down, and we set a goal, and we said, look, we're going to build our own background check system. And we want this background check system to be exclusively built for only 2 types of customers. And those 2 types of customers are parents that are hiring nannies for their families, as well as childcare agency owners and representatives that are placing nannies and au pairs with families across the United States. So we're going to build a background check system that specifically targets those 2 types of customers. And we're going to make the background check system as comprehensive, or really what I mean by that is as detailed as possible, so that the customer that's receiving this background check report is going to be able to see not only that this candidate had, for example, a shoplifting conviction 3 years ago, but what happened with that shoplifting conviction? Did they serve jail time? Are they on probation currently? Did they have to pay fines or take care of community service? So that's the goal that we set out to start on about 4 years ago. And so we've now been operating that system for about 4 years. Right now we're processing about 10,000 background check orders every year. Again, that's specifically with parents and with agency owners, childcare agencies. And obviously I'm biased about why our system is the best. I mean, I created the system, so you can obviously imagine that I'm very biased. But let me spend a couple minutes here and kind of talk about why I would strongly encourage all of you to really take a look at what we're offering, and give some consideration to, does this do, or does our system, or using our system, could that perhaps make things simpler, easier for your agency? And then more importantly than that, not to not to put any importance or to take away importance from that, but really, are we able to provide you with background check reports that are going to give you and your client families that you're working with more peace of mind that you're hiring a nanny or you're hiring a child care provider you're gonna be sure is keeping your kids or your family's client kids and the family themselves in safe hands. Okay, so very first thing about our background check system is that our background check system is 100% FCRA compliant. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with FCRA compliance, but so I won't go into it. I'm happy to answer any questions about FCRA compliance after I'm done here. But really, FCRA compliance is very, very almost critically important in the childcare world because it's the only permitted type or style of background check that can be used for pre-employment background screening. And again, I won't go too much into that. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. But really what it comes down to is if you've ever jumped on Google and you've searched the term background check or background check for nannies, you may have run across a company called Truthfinder. And there's a lot of other companies that are like truthfinder.com. And really what truthfinder.com and some of these other companies are doing, first off, they're not an FCRA compliant background check system. So first and foremost, you're not allowed or you're not permitted, according to the federal government, to use a company like Truthfinder or some of these other ones. I'll think of some more of the names here in a minute. To complete pre-employment background screening. Really, those companies are just using publicly available data that they're scrubbing from the internet to create a pretty nice report, and charge you a fair amount of money to provide that report to you. So FCRA compliance, is so critical, and that's really kind of the keystone of our background check system. The other thing that was really important to us and why I think, and I hear this actually from a lot of our customers about why they continue to work with us and order background checks from us. We don't hide fees. And I'm sure some of you have probably ordered a background check on a candidate that you're working with. You get an email from the background check company that says, hey, we're 40% done with your background check report, but we need to charge you an extra $39 to run this other search to ensure that you have a complete report. And we've heard a lot of complaints about that. In fact, in the hundreds now from customers that we're working with about, really just how deceitful and how unfair that is. And especially when you pay the initial fee and then, a couple hours later or a day or two later, you're being asked to pay a second fee. So I built the system so that there are no hidden fees. Basically, you pay one price. It doesn't matter if that background check and that one price that you paid, it doesn't matter if it has to pull 10 different, county criminal record searches, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes here, or one county criminal record search. It's really the price you see is the price you pay. And the only exception to that, and again, I'm sure some of you have run into this if you're in kind of the northeast part of America, is what's called the New York OCA fee. I won't go into that too much. Happy to answer any questions on that, but the New York OCA fee is one additional fee that we're required by the state of New York to pay. So no hidden fees, and that's really important to us. The other thing is that when I built the system, I wanted, as I said earlier, I wanted the system to be as comprehensive and as detailed as possible. So our background check system can search over 1 billion, and that's billion with a B, records, where if you look at most of the other background check solutions that are available out there, those background check companies are only able to search somewhere between about 100 and 300 million, 100 to 300 million with an M records. So we've got a system that can search triple the number of records that most other background check companies can search. And obviously that gives you a much clearer picture of the candidate's history because you are able to search more records. The other thing that we offer, and nobody else offers this, and it's something that we kind of laughed a little bit about and weren't sure if it would actually be, if there would be value in it. But we found that there's actually a lot of value in it, is what's called our vetted candidate guarantee. And it's really important for the agency owners that we're currently working with. Basically, the way the vetted candidate guarantee works is if you run a background check with us and the candidate is found to have a serious felony conviction, and we have a list of those qualified felonies on our website, you're probably not going to place that nanny because of the felony hit or hits. And so our vetted candidate guarantee is basically, if one of these convictions, felony convictions, is found on the background check report, we'll run your next background check for free. Okay. And a lot of the agencies that we currently work with have availed themselves of this kind of guarantee that we use. And it helps them save some money. And depending on how the agency's set up, whether the agency is paying for the background check reports themselves as the agency, or if the and this is how most of the agencies that we work with is this next option, they're passing the cost of the background check screening service on to the parents. It can obviously save some money for either the agency or the parent clients or the family clients down the road. And then finally, excuse me, what I think and what I work on daily, and I think it's the most important kind of benefit of our background check system is, and I mentioned this earlier in my kind of preamble, we offer dedicated customer support. So we have a specific background check team, and we have a series of background check managers. And this background check team is available to all of our customers 365 days of the year. And yes, that includes Christmas, Thanksgiving, everything. And this team is basically set up to, really answer any questions, handle any issues that our background check customers have. They're available from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I actually every day work myself as one of the background check managers. So I personally am the exclusive point of contact for a number of our agencies. So, if they're running 20 or 30 background checks a month, they're bound to have some questions about various things that they're seeing on background check reports that they've ordered. They can pick up the phone, they can email, they can text us and just say, hey, look, I've got this report. Can you help me understand what am I looking at here? I have an issue. Can you help me work through that issue? And I know that there's other background check companies that offer some sort of customer service, but we're really offering this, all-inclusive 365-day per year, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time customer service team, and there's no additional cost for that. It's basically all included with the background check package price. And so for me personally, and being the founder of this company, building it over the years, offering that customer service has been, number one, I think the most important part of why our background check system has become so popular in the last couple of years. But it's something that we feel agencies, specifically, childcare agencies that we're working with. We also do work with some elder care agencies. You guys are all busy. You don't have time to sit down and figure out, hey, what does this charge on a background check report? What does this mean? We make that easy where you can just pick up the phone or text or email, call us, and we'll basically help you with that. We'll answer that for you so that you can get back to, vetting your candidates, making your placements, doing what you need to do. And then the last part of what we do, and this is something that I don't know of any other background check company that takes care of, is we're constantly monitoring all the federal, state, and local laws. And these actually change on a fairly regular basis as it comes to background screening or pre-employment screening and how that's concerned. So we're constantly monitoring that. And really what we're doing is taking any sort of law or regulation changes and ensuring that our customers, our parents, our agency owners that are running background checks are staying in compliance with these new laws and regulations as they come out. So that's a little bit about kind of who I am and, more importantly, what we're offering. I'll stop there for a minute. If you're already currently running background checks through your agency, which I assume a lot of you are, great. Happy to talk with you a little bit about what's working for you, what's not working for you with whatever solution that you're using right now. But I would strongly encourage you to, take a couple of minutes, take a look at our system, see if it can make your job easier. And that's really, as you can tell from this little 10 or 15 minute talk here, that's really what our goal is to is to kind of streamline the entire background check process for agency owners, and that's why we're so excited about having this partnership with Enginehire. And I know that there's some things that we're not ready to talk about yet because we're still building them, but we've got some really cool kind of features and improvements that we're going to offer down the road here in our partnership with Enginehire to make the whole background check process even more streamlined than it already is today. So Akash, I'll stop there and kind of kick it back over to you.
Thanks, Colby. I think we have a question from Tish. She's asking if you're PBSA accredited.
Yes, we are. There is two different types of accreditation. These aren't talked a lot about, but they are important to bring up, and I'm glad that you asked that question. So there is the PBSA certification, and yes, our system is PBSA certified. And then there's also what's called the I think it's the NAPBS. Yeah, the NAPBS. That's the Background Screening Credentialing Council. It's a mouthful. And we're also accredited with them as an employment screening agency. We also, just to throw out there, because I think this is something that you all probably don't get a lot of time to think about, but I would strongly encourage you to at least think about it for a couple of minutes, is data security. With the FCRA compliance, there are a tremendous amount of data security and privacy laws that come into, or I should say requirements, that come into play with being an FCRA compliant screening company. So we have an ISO certification in information security for our system, and we have a second ISO certification in quality management for our system as well. So one thing that I don't talk a lot about, but it's really important to the candidates, as I'm sure that some of you know, is what's going to happen to my social security number when I run a background check? What's going to happen to my driver's license number? And that's something that we take really seriously. And so, for example, we don't store any sort of personal information for candidates, background check screening reports, anything like that. We don't store that on any sort of a server or device that is accessible to the internet. We keep that all offline and siloed because obviously, as you can tell, data security and privacy is really important to us.
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
My name's Allison.
Hi, Allison.
Hello, I'll turn my video on. I was wondering, how much does it typically cost for the background checks? I'm using a background check company that I'm happy with currently, but I'm thinking about doing babysitting, and I know it's going to get really costly.
Yeah.
Background checks on almost everybody. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, can you share your screen? Or I can share mine. I just don't have the.
Yeah, yeah, I can share it. Don't worry. So going to the 1 second, I will open the landing page. I guess that's the page you want to see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you read my mind.
Okay.
So to answer your question, what we've done is we have two different packages that we're offering through Enginehire. It's called our Gold and our Premium package. The Gold package is $79. The Premium package is $99. Now, I don't know how you have your agency set up. I can tell you that probably about 90% of the agencies that we're currently working with, the way that they handle the background check expense is they're passing that along to the customer, to their family customer. And that's how they're paying for it. So I don't know. So I have to be honest. We don't have a lot of, I would call, price sensitivity with our current agency owners. Really, what I would tell you is that they're, in talking with them, they're looking for, hey, look, we really want to make sure that this candidate has.
Sorry, Colby, we just lost your audio.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So Daniel, if you, oh yeah, perfect. So here's the two packages that we're currently offering. So again, the Gold and the Platinum, and I'll just really quickly touch on this, run down through this so everybody understands. The vetted candidate guarantee we already spoke about. The social security number trace, almost every background check company offers some sort of a social security number trace. The important thing to remember with a social security number trace, and again, it depends on how your agency is set up. One of the things that we can do with a social security number trace is confirm that a candidate is eligible to work in the United States. So for some of the agencies that we work with, especially down south, Arizona, Nevada, California, New Mexico, confirming that a candidate either, has a social security number and is allowed to work in the United States or has a valid work visa, that's obviously, very important. The National Criminal Records Database search is kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different databases, including Homeland Security, FBI, DEA, Secret Service. You'll see a lot of companies offering what's called, we call it the NCRD search. It's an important search. It's not as important as the County Criminal Record search, which I'll talk about here in just a quick second. But it definitely, there is some value in running that search. The National Sex Offender Search, I think, is probably one of the most important components that we're offering. And you have to really be careful. You have to take a look at the background check system that you're currently using. You need to make sure that they're looking at the specific nationwide sex offender database. I've noticed recently that there's a couple of background check companies that are omitting the sex offender search to try to save a couple of dollars. Obviously in the childcare world, the sex offender search is so important. The motor vehicle report or the motor vehicle record search, obvious what that is. The one little pro tip that I like to share about the MVR or the motor vehicle search is even if your candidate is not going to drive for the family, or even if the candidate doesn't even have a driver's license, running a motor vehicle record report is actually really interesting because you're still going to see any sort of hits that are associated with that candidate's either driver's license or ID number. If they don't have a driver's license number. And a good example is we were working with one of our agency clients last week. We ran the background check on the candidate that the family wanted to hire, and the candidate had a perfectly clean background, except for they had 6 speeding tickets within about 4 months. And you would not have seen those 6 speeding tickets in that very short period of time in any other part of the background check report, except for the motor vehicle report. And obviously that caused the family some pause. They sat down, they said, really, how do we feel about this? And in the end, they ended up having a conversation with the candidate, told them that they were concerned about, that number of speeding tickets or speeding infractions in such a short period of time. So if you're not running a motor vehicle report, give some thought to, should you be running or could you offer some additional value by running a motor vehicle report? And then finally, the county criminal record searches. And just again, very briefly, I can talk more about this in a minute. The county criminal record searches with the national sex offender search is the most important part of any background check report. And you can see here, there's the first one, which is the current county of residence. And this is, again, another kind of loophole, another watch out that you need to be careful of with other background check providers that are out there. A lot of background check companies will say, hey, we're going to run county criminal record searches for you, but they're only going to run them in the current county that the candidate lives in. What we offer you here, and this is how we've been set up ever since the beginning, is you can choose to either run only the current county that they live in, or you can search all counties that they've lived in over the last 7 years. And the county criminal record search is so important because this is where you're going to find the misdemeanors. This is where you're going to find I would argue probably about 85% of hits are found within the county criminal record search. And I've seen several examples of our customers using background check systems in the past that don't include a county criminal record search. The customer is ordering background checks. They're getting reports back that show that the candidate has a clear background or clear history, But then when they run the same candidate through a background check system like ours that includes county criminal records, they're actually finding hits. And this is where you're going to see stuff like drug charges, shoplifting. In some states, this is where you're going to find the domestic abuse, the child abuse, the elder abuse. So county criminal records are really, really important, probably second most important, only behind national sex offender search. So I'm sorry that was a really long answer to your question, but you can see the pricing here and you can see what it includes as well.
Thank you. Is that per month or per package?
That's per background check order.
Got it. Thank you.
Great, thanks for the question, Allison. Stephanie, do you have any questions? Take that as no. So, yeah, you know, I mean, really, what we're trying to do, here is set up an integration in a way where you can order a background check through the system, and it will directly get sent to the team at Colby and the team at Nanny Parent Connection, and then the data will get fed back into their Enginehire profile. So, you know, make it kind of as seamless as possible to run those background checks. Some of that level of kind of integration is still a work in progress, but yeah, you know, I do think it's from everything we've kind of seen and heard, it's really important to work with a really, really good company like Nanny Parent Connection. I know there's so many background check companies out there. It feels like every agency we talk to is using a different company. But you know, I think, and there's some of the agency owners and some of the people in organizations like APNA and INA have very strong opinions about using kind of subpar quality background checks. I don't know if there's something you want to speak to at all, Colby, but you know, it's an interesting. I'm sure you've thought about this, Colby, where like, you know, there's cheap options out there, but they're not as good. And how do you balance that as an agency owner?
Yeah, I can definitely talk to that for just a quick moment. I mean, so it's so simple to just jump on Google and look for background check companies. And you know, I've done this myself. I do it on a regular basis to kind of see who's out there and what's changed. And, you know, you can find some background check companies that are, you know, really cheap. I mean, I've seen background checks that you can pay $10 for, you know, but what it really comes down to for us, and I'm sure for so many of you as well, is it comes down to confidence. You know, it comes down to, and you know, I hate to say this because, but it's true. It comes down to reputation. For our own agency ourselves, we want to 125% be confirmed that the candidates that we're placing with families have a clear background. And you know, we go as far as, hey, you know, this candidate's got a perfectly clear background, but they have an accident on their record that they were at fault for, and they had to serve some probation for this accident. We'll go down and sit down with them and say, look, what is this about? You know, it's obviously it's a little bit unusual to have to serve probation for an accident. So that's why we're going, wait a second here. This is different than what we normally see. Can you please tell us a story of what's happening here? So yeah, I mean, I'm not here to ring alarm bells or to, you know, yell fire, but be so careful with what background check companies that you're working with. And I can tell you that we work with a couple of agencies that were not running FCRA compliant background check reports. And in one example that happened over the summer, one of their parent families, family clients, called them out on it and said, you know, hey, I looked at the background check report. This is not FCRA compliant. I cannot use this background check report to hire or not hire this candidate because it's not FCRA compliant. So yeah, I definitely feel, and I know that, you know, background check seems to just be a checkbox in kind of your to-do list. Like, hey, I need to run a background check. How am I going to do that? Let's get this done. Or I've been using the system and it works pretty well for me. Take a couple minutes and step back and analyze. And you know, really look at is it FCRA compliant? Are you getting that nationwide sex offender search included? Are you getting the county criminal record search? Are you happy with the customer service? You know, are you finding that you're having to, as a story one of our agency clients tells us, you know, I would call my previous background check company and 5 days later I would get a call back. that's not acceptable. Our whole mantra or our whole goal is you call, if we're busy, we'll call you back within 10 or 15 minutes. We'll be right back on the phone to you because we know that your time is busy. So yeah, Akash, I think that's a good question. And again, I can't emphasize enough. I know, especially for some of our agency, some of the team members that we have in our agency model, background checks are just, okay, let's get it done. Come on, check that box. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, let's slow down. Let's make sure, especially in this day and age, and especially everything that's been going on the last couple of years, with COVID and with inflation, it's expensive to run a business these days. Whether it's Enginehire or one of your agencies or Nanny Parent Connection, it's gotten a lot more expensive. How can we make it less expensive for you? That's really what we're trying to do.
And I mean, actually kind of related to that, I think especially as a new agency or something, it must be really tempting to see one of those kind of $10 background checks and check that box. So is there any danger, to the agency if they end up using, like, consciously or unconsciously using like a disreputable, I guess some things are very black and white. Like, is it compliant? I think FCRA, you said compliant. But is there any kind of risk or danger to the agency and the agency owner and that kind of thing if they get stuck with or they again, consciously or unconsciously end up with a bad background check or bad background check company?
Yeah, there's two things. And FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, nobody cares about the history of it. It's pretty boring. But the interesting part of the FCRA is the Fair Credit Reporting Act was created because many, many years ago, background check companies could put whatever they wanted on a background check report. And you'll actually, you can dive deep into the internet and find some crazy stories of, people back in the 80s having background checks run on them and not being shown the report, but being told, we can't hire you because you have been convicted of a felony, when the person had never even been arrested in their entire life. The Fair Credit Reporting Act was created to basically bring the candidate into the background screening process. One component of the FCRA process is the candidate is required by law to receive a copy of their background check report. The other really big benefit of the FCRA is the FCRA guides, what happens if a hit is found on a background check report and the employer decides not to hire this potential employee. There's a whole set of guidelines, a flow that you have to follow. If you are going to not hire a candidate because of something you saw on their background check report. So to your question, Akash, there's two watch outs that I'll kind of warn everybody about. Number one, and I already said this a couple minutes ago, reputation. You don't want to get a reputation amongst your client base that you're kind of short-circuiting or taking a shortcut on the background checks for your candidates. I've heard some stories. They are not good stories of this happening with some agency owners in the past. We also had a church that we were working with that had a similar issue. So there is that kind of reputation or that confidence issue that you have to watch out for. I haven't heard a lot about enforcement action from the federal government on FCRA. I have heard some stories of investigations being launched into companies that were, just not, we're hiring employees and we're not using an FCRA compliant background check. So, it's kind of like the IRS. I mean, you can run the risk of getting audited by the IRS. Do you really want to do that? No. It's the same way with FCRA compliance. You might be able to fly under the radar for several years not using FCRA compliance, but you don't want to get that certified letter in the mail from the federal government one day saying, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to, basically audit you and inspect your background check, the background check system that you're using or your background check record keeping. So yeah, those are the two watch outs that you have to be careful of with the background checks.
Awesome. Thank you, Colby. That makes a lot of sense. Great. Well, does anyone else have any other questions or anything they?
Yeah, Akash, sorry, I have a question. Actually, it's not my question, but I got this question for a couple of our agency customers that we were like asking. I think I already asked you this, Colby, but I think it probably could be important to answer. And it's like, in which situations or when do you actually send a real person to a courthouse to find reports, or how does process work? Because I think, like, again, a couple of agencies were asking if you actually do that on your background check process.
Yeah, yeah, no, good. It's a good question. So if you're ever looking at a background check company, and the background check company in the very, very fine print at the bottom says, we do not run background checks in the following states. And you'll see sometimes a relatively long list of states that they will not process background checks in. What you're really seeing there is this background check company kind of tacitly admitting to you that they don't have the ability to search records in states that are not automated yet. And really what that means is some, major metropolitan, states, counties, areas, Miami, San Francisco, Los Angeles, a lot of the records that you search for background check reports are automated now. You can access them using databases. Some of these are publicly available databases. Some of these are databases that are only available to private background screening companies. It depends on the jurisdiction. So what we do is our system is built so no matter which county, any county in America, it doesn't matter if it's the smallest county in Arkansas or the largest county in New York or California or what have you. Our team can go to a courthouse, physically go to a courthouse and pull records for a background check report that are not available online. So you got to be really careful about this, and you have to read the fine print, because I can think of one of our largest competitors right now, and currently they're not offering background checks in 5 states because they don't have a system in place, or they don't have a team in place to be able to go into the courthouses in that state and manually search records. Now, obviously that all makes sense, but here's the bigger problem to all of this. If you have a background check company that cannot search records in certain counties or certain states or certain jurisdictions, how are they able to provide you with a complete background check report? They can't. A good example is, let's say that Sally is ordering a background check on Jane. Jane lived in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has a lot of county courthouses that are what are called manual search only. The background company does not have the ability to screen those counties. So the background check company finds no other hits for Jane's background check, sends the report to Sally and says, hey, Jane's got a clear background check report, you're good to go. But Jane actually had a felony conviction in Oklahoma. That's where, for myself and our agency, and for you all as agency owners, that's where the rubber really hits the road. Because if a background screening company cannot search a jurisdiction, how will they ever know that there actually is a hit in that jurisdiction? That is a huge problem for all of us agency owners, especially as it comes down to confidence and reputation. So yeah, for us, for our system that we have operating today, no matter what county a candidate has lived in, all the way down to Puerto Rico, we can go all the way down into Puerto Rico as well. Either automated or manual search at the county courthouse, we can pull those records.
Okay, Colby, thank you for your answer.
Sure.
It makes sense.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, Colby.
Oh, my pleasure.
Informative.
Yeah, it's cool. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's background checks. I know a lot of people don't think about them, but there's so much more. It's the iceberg, right? There's so much more under the water that you don't see about background checks that you have to be so careful with.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are like that actually, but
yeah.
Awesome. Well, and thank you to everyone who showed up. I hope you found this useful. And yeah, we'll share the recording with everybody. If you have any questions for us, any questions for Colby, we'll share his contact information as well. I know he's happy to speak with anyone anytime. And yeah, otherwise, everyone have a great weekend and take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Colby.
No problem. Thank you.